one thing affects other things in life.
Hmm.
Grapefruit oil, it's amazing to help curb cravings, to how stress affects the digestive system.
Welcome to today's episode. I'm thrilled to have Seema Shah, a holistic health coach and an expert in mindfulness, stress reduction, and lot more. Seema, thank you for joining us. Can you please tell about yourself to our audience?
Thank you so much for inviting me for this, Dr. Yoga. So, I'm Seema, currently based in the UK. I primarily work as a clinician, but my real passion is holistic and alternative health. So, what I do is I also empower women with yoga, meditation, nutrition, so mainly plant based nutrition and health coaching as well. And these are my passions, empowering women with health and well being to live the best lives they can so they can empower their families and their society in general and the whole world.
That's great. That's great. Okay, then our listeners would be eager to listen from you. So let's dive straight in. Seema, women today face unique challenges balancing work, family, and self care. How do stress, nutrition, and emotional well being intersect when it comes to women's health?
Wow, it's such a wide topic and really relevant to this day and age because women play so many roles these days. From, for example, being a working parent, if they got children, or even a professional, to being expected in a lot of instances in certain cultures and community to also take part in doing a lot around the house or for their families as well. So, when it comes to nutrition, really, really nurturing ourselves as women so that we feel at our best, we feel energized, we feel like we're in control because it's like basically if we fill our cup, it will overflow and we can give out more to others. But if we are not nourished ourselves, it's
Hmm.
very difficult to give out to others. And regarding stress, so just very simply, stress is a sudden biological change and it could be something external. For example, a work deadline or something around the house, like, an emergencies come up, or it could be something internal. For example, when we ill or things like that, which changes our own physiological state. And that could be stressful because it needs time to rest and recover. And everyone approaches stress in a different way. So, some women, for example, we have more of a fight flight response where they either want to get away from the situation or they want to basically, especially we all ebb through times. For those who still go through the monthly cycles, one might notice that there's certain times
Exactly.
people want to be more in a fight reaction and acknowledging our cycles, acknowledging if you still got your cycles, that is, and acknowledging what stage you're at will help determine how you would react to a certain situation. Other times, women freeze. So basically, what that means is procrastination, where they feel stuck, it's stagnant, they can't move forwards. But using all these different things to our power and knowing at what stage during the month or during the year, we want to basically take time to rest and restore so our stress levels are low. At what time do we want to basically move away from the situation? And at what time do we want to get involved because we want to feel empowered, but in a compassionate way would be very helpful. How I believe is what we do with one thing affects other things in life.
Hmm.
So, everything coming from a heart space, love and compassion for ourselves, emanating to others, really helps to get to a place where we're more calm, more collected, and we're more in control, but in a way that isn't negative to ourselves and others around us.
Yeah, true, true, true. Very, very thoughtful actually. It's like you say, like we have the circadian rhythm, same way our menstrual rhythm has to be monitored and we had to have an eye on it to have a better wellness, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, yes, yeah. And if you got partners or other family members, it's all about authentic communication.
Mm,
Because, for example, your kids, partners, other family members, even work colleagues may not know why there's a certain pattern of behavior, for example, at certain phases.
mm,
So, if possible, communicating authentically, if you've got room to do so, is very powerful.
yeah. Yeah, that's gonna bring a major shift in our environment and people and our communication too, right? Okay, Seema, mindful eating has gained popularity recently. How does it help reduce stress and promote overall wellness, especially for women?
Absolutely. So, mindful eating is very important. It's basically self care in a
Mm,
different dimension. So, we're nourishing ourselves, we're eating mindful. And what does mindful eating mean?
mm,
It means we're eating with awareness, number one.
yeah,
Because sometimes when people are stressed, they either don't eat or eat the wrong things or overeat. So
yeah.
it's, depending on their personality, how they approach it. But being mindful is about being aware of every bite that goes in our mouth. And ideally, knowing what that's doing for us, being aware, is this making me feel good? Or
Mm,
it's not working for me. And we're all allowed to have treats from time to time, but it's about doing the right thing most of the time to make a big difference to our lives. Mindful eating is also about engaging all the senses. For
mm,
example, a whole apple or any fruit is going to be different from, say, the fruit juice. So, an apple juice, for example, to a dessert like an apple pie or apple crumble.
yeah.
So, it's about being mindful about which is the best one. Is it the one with other ingredients added to it? The one which is higher in the sugar content because the fiber has been removed? Or is it the one as nature provides, wholesome food? So it's about being mindful about what we're eating and what it does to us from a point of view of what does it look like? Just taking a moment to observe, does this look like it's got live energy? Is it going to nourish us? And does it look appealing? We all know that there's certain things we look at and we can't even see that it's got the energy, the sattvic energy, as we call it,
Mm,
about it. Those are things that basically don't rot easily, or you don't see many insects, birds reaching out for it because they're very intuitive and they know exactly what food will nourish them. So
true.
just following that, anything that is, got a long shelf life but has been highly processed is probably not going to work for our energy body, our prana. So being mindful about that, eating nourishing foods. The second thing is after looking at the food and kind of being aware, is this going to work for me? It's about, is it at its ripest? So the smell sometimes tells us if something is not ripe compared to something which is in season and ripe, it's going to smell differently.
Yeah.
And it's going to have a different energy when it's local food compared to something that's done many air miles and come to us. It's a
Mm,
different energy altogether, as well as obviously the concept of supporting local farmers and local trade. So, how does it look like? How does it smell? How does it taste?
how does it
Every
feel like? Yeah.
Exactly. The texture. Is there a crunch, for example? Is there a snap? So things like that. So, being aware of it. And when you're aware of all these different things, all the five senses, then you generally tend to eat slower because you're enjoying it,
Mm,
and generally eat less because you feel fulfilled and satisfied with the food much quicker than just eating like a robot or on autopilot on the go, where people are not mindful, and before you know it, it feels like, oh, one has overeaten, or one feels really full more so than they would if they ate mindfully in a relaxed way.
yeah, very Actually, that's true. Whichever food is easily perishable, like we had to go for it than going for the packed and the all pesticided foods and stuff, right? So only when we are aware and mindful, we'll be able to even choose it. That's so beautiful. Sima, chronic stress often shows up in subtle ways. What are some physical and emotional signs of stress that women tend to overlook?
Brilliant. That's such a lovely question
Yeah.
because sometimes as women, we feel like we have to give, give, and give.
Mm,
And it's sometimes getting to a stage where it can get critical before people realize that the stress levels are so high.
mm,
So, in terms of recognizing chronic stress, first let's understand what's acute stress and chronic stress. So, acute
mm,
stress is stress which is short term. There are various ways. So, for example, traditionally, the stress response is part of our nervous system, which helps us get away or basically survive from endangering things. So, like sudden physiological change. For example, in the olden days, being hunters and gatherers, running away from a wild animal. So, that acute stress or the short term stress is very helpful for survival.
mm,
It's also in the modern day motivating. So if you got to get through an exam or a project, something like that, a little bit of stress, which serves the purpose, is motivating.
mm,
But when it gets chronic, that means it's long term and
mm,
it's not under check. People don't implement tools. Then it can get to a stage where it's detrimental, and it's those short things which add up. So things which might not have triggered one earlier might start to trigger when the stress levels build up beyond a certain point and gets what we call chronic or long term. And in women, some of the things, especially when women get to a certain age and certain stage in life, things that they might not have noticed earlier, things like, for example, digestive disturbances. Sometimes certain foods they're more sensitive to, like the digestion tells them some things are not working. And the reason is when one has got chronic stress, so if it's like an acute stress, when somebody's running away from that wild animal, then what happens is the blood flow gets to the limbs. They don't feel like eating at that point because their mode is survival. So the same thing when there's chronic stress, the digestive system isn't working efficiently because it's all about fight, flight, freeze reaction. If there's freeze reaction, the digestion is sluggish, slow. If it's fight and flight, basically the energy, the body's energy is being diverted and the blood flow, other things, the mental kind of ability or focus is directed to other things. So when digestion is not efficient, one can't absorb nutrients very well sometimes. Sometimes all those things like gas or like bloating or feeling constipated or other kind of digestive disturbances. So that's one thing I notice when I do coaching and nutrition in women. That's one of the things. So yes, when it comes to stress, digestion is one thing that is affected adversely. The second thing in women is sometimes, especially with hormonal changes, be it monthly or through phases of life, stress can affect them adversely as well. Because, for example, when a woman is perimenopausal, menopausal, things like hot flushes, for example, drying
mm,
out the skin, other areas of the body, things like that. So it can be quite stressful sometimes because what they notice is their sleep gets affected, other phases of their life get affected as well. And I see that commonly with clients when that happens, especially if the women who used to a structure and a routine, if the sleep is out of whack, so it's out of the rhythm that they used to or the routine they used to, it affects their focus, performance, and other aspects of their life. So all those things can be stressful, the physiological changes, the ebbs and flow that women get through. The other thing is, as women, like I mentioned before, sometimes we give a lot. It's about setting good boundaries.
mm,
And that comes with empowerment.
Yeah.
It's difficult sometimes, especially when it's close family, friends, work colleagues, for example,
Mm,
about knowing when to say yes, when to say no, because we're not doing anyone any favors, including ourselves, if our cup is not full, if we're not nourished ourselves and not got enough to give out to others.
exactly.
So yes, stress has various effects. It affects how one eats. Do they eat mindfully, lovingly? Do they treat their bodies like a temple?
Mm,
Or do they just think food is just a source of fueling themselves, but it's not the optimum fuel? You wouldn't fill a car that runs on petrol with
mm,
diesel, for example. But if we fuel ourselves with the wrong food and drink choices, we're not going to run it at optimum. And that's
exactly.
what one needs to be aware of.
Yeah, that's actually, they say like our gut is the second brain. Our second brain to work properly, you'll have to be stress free. To be stress free, you have to eat mindfully, right? So everything is totally interconnected. So, Seema, I want you to add a lot of knowledge on this. Essential oils. Essential oils are becoming a go-to for stress relief, right? How can they work alongside mindful eating to create a more relaxed state for the body and mind to work with?
Lovely, thank you. And yes, I love essential oils. It's a
Mm,
tool that I reach out for often. And here's why. Before I go into which essential oils, why do
mm,
essential oils work? So, for example, we all know of childhood memories where we've gone to a certain place, for example, a religious place where we've smelt candles, incense sticks, other things, or we've smelt somewhere, for example, jasmine or roses, or a certain perfume, or we know even before we see a person, okay, there is this person, especially if it's somebody, a family member, because the sense of smell is the first sense that develops. It's linked to the root chakra, the Muladhara chakra, and it's the first sense. So traditionally, when babies are born, they had closed. These days, babies are born with the eyes open as well, but
mm,
traditionally, eyes were closed. How did they know what the source of their food was and the association with their mother, for example? The sense of smell, they know where to go to, where to reach out for their food, even before the sight, which is
mm,
linked to the second chakra as well. But basically, what we need is the sense of smell. It's linked to our primitive brains, the limbic system. So, what that does is the sense of smell can basically cause brain changes which are so fast. Just smelling something, we know whether we're going to like that food, like a food we like, we start to salivate. It's that profound. And basically, that's how essential oils work. It's the sense of smell which is activated so quickly through our limbic system. What that does is it anchors things into us memories or
mm,
certain physiological states. And stress being a change or sudden change, if we wanted to counteract that, essential oils can work very well for that because it can change our physiology very quickly, the way our
okay.
limbic brain works. So there are various essential oils, but just to keep it simple for those especially starting out on this journey, to relax. So if stress is causing a lot of, say, feeling anxious or scattered or like feeling overwhelmed, to bring our what we call sympathetic nervous system down, which is a very
Mm,
active part of our nervous system down, oils like lavender
mm,
for most people will help to get them to a calmer, more relaxed state.
okay. Wow.
It's a very relaxing oil. And the way I like to use it, so you can use it in a diffuser, for example. And lavender is so gentle that even it's used in a lot of baby products, for example. So a lot of them are lavender scented. It's one
Yeah.
of the safer oils to use, especially if you've got a young child at home and you want to choose an oil that you're going to diffuse to calm the whole family down.
Mm,
Gentle enough for that. There are various ways of using it. Like I said, the diffusing is one. You can apply as long as it's a good, clean product. The different types of essential oils, some can be used on the skin, others just for diffusing. Um, so basically, if you're going to use it on your skin, just make sure it's suitable for that. The brand or the quality is suitable for that. How I like to do it is I like to think what's the fastest way of using these oils. Diffusing is one, and for those women that find it difficult, or you find that their children are finding it difficult to fall asleep,
Mm.
having one or two drops of lavender oil, a good quality one, because you're going to breathe that in inevitably,
Yeah.
in a diffuser running, say in the bedroom, half an hour to 1 hour before going to sleep, just making sure the doors and windows are closed. So the
Mm.
lavender oil is circulating in the room and it's got this calming, relaxing smell. So you're settling to sleep quickly. So that's one way I like to use it. The other way is, for example, if I find the stress is overwhelming during the day for me, I'll use a drop of lavender oil, especially on my right wrist. And the reason for that is one of the tools to reduce stress is the alternate nostril breathing, which
Mm.
is a pranayam, a breathing technique. Now, what that does is it works with both our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. The right side of our body, the Surya Nadi, helps to activate us. The left side, the Chandra Nadi, linked to the moon, helps
Okay.
with the parasympathetic to relax us. So with the alternate nostril breathing, especially because I use my right arm, when I've got the lavender
Mm.
oil on my wrist, I'm breathing it in when I'm doing the breathing technique. And that for me is so balancing because the alternate nostril breathing is harmonizing, it's aligning our nervous system. So we
Okay.
neither feel like we're overactive, nor do we feel like we're say procrastinating or feeling stuck. So it's really a nice balancing pranayam to use. So that's one oil. Now, what about people when they feel so stuck, they're procrastinating, and they feel like they can't even make a move? They're so stagnant, they don't know where to start. And that's the stress response. So, uplifting essential oils, things like citrus oils.
Mm.
Bergamot is one of my favorite, which is like a little orange, but
Mm.
it's got a distinct smell. But you could use lemon, lime oil, orange, or why? If we go to say a Mediterranean climate or something where we smell citruses, it automatically uplifts us. We think
Elevates your
about the
mood.
sunnier season. Absolutely, yes.
Mm.
So for those people who are feeling like they're stuck, it's almost like they're feeling depressed rather than the anxiety, which is like an overwhelming reaction. Those citrus oils can be uplifting. Just word of caution with those. If you're out in strong sun, just be wary of some citrus oils. But other than that, if you're diffusing at home or things like that, it's amazing to shift your physiology and get you into a happier, joyous state very quickly. And
Okay.
then for women, hormonal balance, the last one, what I love is one called Clary Calm, but you can use geranium, you can use other floral oils like rose. So all those floral oils like rose and geranium
Mm.
are linked to the feminine energy, linked to
Okay.
the sacral chakra, linked to hormonal balance. And I absolutely love those if I feel I need some of them. Those can be used throughout the cycles. And when one wants to feel a lot of self love, in control, during times of PMS, and during times where one feels like they just need some TLC for themselves.
Okay. That's so beautiful, and I'm gonna inculcate this in my daily routine as well. Are there any specific essential oils that you'd recommend to improve digestion or reduce emotional eating triggered by stress?
Yes, so three that come to mind straight away: peppermint oil. So,
Mm.
peppermint oil, again, with essential oils, they're very, very potent.
Okay.
So, you got to be careful if you're using it as an essential oil because overdoing it is not good. And then, if you're using it for digestion, are you applying it, for example, near the navel, or are you just basically inhaling those oils through a diffuser?
Mm.
because any oils which are taken internally, one needs to be licensed or marketed as such. There needs to be very pure products. Anything with fillers or anything that's only marketed for external use, please avoid for internal use.
Okay.
Um, Saying that, peppermint oil is a great one. It's an uplifting oil. Peppermint is great, or any mint for that example. It's really great for digestion.
Okay.
Traditionally, people in various cultures, sometimes you chew on holly basil, peppermint, things like that after a meal. It's really good to, de-stress, decompose, but at the same time uplifting as well.
Yeah.
So that's one. Ginger.
Mm.
We know that ginger used commonly in cooking is great for digestion. It's anti-inflammatory, especially if you've got digestive symptoms, signs and symptoms to linked with stress or inflammation. So ginger is a beautiful one as well to use. Again, a little bit, provided it can be used safely externally around the navel, the solar plexus chakra. Ginger oil is great for the solar plexus chakra as well.
Okay.
Great to be used. Might need to be diluted with a carrier oil like a coconut oil or something if it's really potent, but that's really a great one. And then the third one, which comes to mind, apart from peppermint, which is uplifting, it peppermint helps to pep up the digestion.
Okay.
Ginger helps to calm down. It's anti-inflammatory. And the third essential oil, especially for people with food cravings, if they feel they're emotionally eating,
Eating.
and tend to eat a little bit more. Now, with this one, be cautious, especially if you're on a hypertensive, so like high blood pressure medication. But grapefruit oil,
Mm.
scientific studies done, it helps to curb cravings.
Mm.
But word of caution for people who are on some hypertensive, so high blood pressure medication, it's contraindicated. For those who can, grapefruit is great. So
Mm.
ways that can be used. So sometimes I tell my coaching clients, if they tend to eat emotionally, they've got a tendency to eat, a little bit more or the wrong type of foods. Diffusing grapefruit oil in the dining room or where they're going to eat is great.
Okay.
Once they've got that and they're taking a few deep breaths, so usually I like to put some intention before I eat, some sort of grace or prayer, take a few deep breaths. Because when we take a few deep breaths before we eat and link it to, say, the grapefruit oil or just our routine of a basically ritual of eating, and I love to see eating as a ritual where I'm
Mm.
myself rather than on the go. So, taking a few deep breaths and really being grateful for the food that you're about to eat. And the breaths, when you take deep breaths, it composes your nervous system where it's calmer. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system. Because if we're eating on the go and we're eating straight, when we're in a stressful situation without recomposing ourselves, it's easier to eat without the awareness, to eat, the wrong type of foods more than when we feel full, and also our food not being digested well. Because, like we mentioned earlier, how stress affects the digestive system, where the energy of the body, the blood flow, the resources are going to the limbs rather than being effective with the digestion. So, with the grapefruit oil, it's amazing to help curb cravings. The way it works,
Okay.
it really helps to recompose our cells cravings. So I recommend for people if they can diffuse it. If you can't, same as the lavender oil, a little bit, it might need dilution with a carrier oil. On the wrist, do a few breathing techniques. Various other breathing techniques which are great to prevent emotional eating and reduce stress as well in general. So, for example, if you're stuck in traffic or you just need a minute or two from a situation to recompose yourself, breathing techniques amazing. If you got an essential oil to link with it, great.
Our international speaker Seema Shah has a lot more to uncover on stress reduction, mindful eating, and essential oil. Full video link is in the comment section, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.